Welcome you back to Kojifusu Inspire. Please try and subscribe to our YouTube channel and also like our videos and comment. If there's a particular topic you're interested in, from information science to political science to management to any other field, just let us know those topics in the comment section and then we'll work on that for you. This particular project is going to be in 10 different PowerPoint presentation, and this is the first one we'll be presenting on, which is electoral politics and democracy in Ghana. The first one we'll be dealing over here will be an introduction to election, and the focus of this would be on Ghana. The first images you see here are just the first one on my right at the up at the bottom, the up. You see that of Ghana's flag and the colors, and then you also see a picture from the 2020 Electoral Commission of Ghana for voters registration statistics. Also, on the other side, you see a picture of the 2016 election results outcome, which was the then president, the president then contesting lost the seat by 44.4%, and that of also the incumbent who won, which was Nana Donka Akufo-Addo in 2016, won by 53.80%. Before we go into this, we are focused on this particular session will be understanding what elections are and why they matter. Identify different types of elections in Ghana. We also discuss the core purposes and principles of elections, and conduct elections towards and the conduct of elections to democratic processes. Um, so, what is an election? So it's a formal decision-making process where population chooses individuals to hold public office. So, or we can say an election is a formal way a community decides who leads or what policy to adapt, not just a day, but it's a process that runs before, during, and after voting. And we're going to explain all this as we carry on what the before, the during, and after voting also what implies. We'll also be looking at why rules matter. So the other point also is that it's the organized process through which citizens select leaders or decide on policies. So we can see some key words like policy, we can see leaders, we can see decisions that people are making, a choice that people are making for them. So this particular election is by rules. We know that, right? That the rules that makes the choice legitimate. So as in who can vote, how vote is cast or counted. So who manage the election, how disputes are settled. All these are some of the things that we will look at in terms of what is election or things that are actually part of the electoral process. But drawing close on Ghana, in Ghana, the 1992 Constitution, Article 42, guarantees the right to vote for citizens which are 18 years plus and of sound mind and have registered and are eligible to vote. So this is that of of Ghana. And then some of the concepts that underpins elections that we're going to look over here, as in I've mentioned some key concepts, as in choice, institutional rule, peaceful transition, and then citizens uh, participation. So when we talk about the fact about choice and peaceful transition, Ghana has been blessed that since its fourth republic dispensation, that's 1993, on 7th January, when the new president was sworn in, the country has experienced transitions of power alternating between different parties, starting from 2001 to 2000. Another transition that also happened in 2009. Another transition also happened in 2017, which is on the 7th of January. Or another transition also happens again in 2025 on 7th of January. So we've been blessed to have that in terms of choice and then peaceful transition. And then institutional rule in Ghana. So for example, in the elections, the rules of these elections and all those conduct are known. So in 2008, Ghana had a runoff, but the election was very close. So the first round, we were not able to get any party that was able to get 50 plus 1 or 50% of the vote. So the two major parties that won the highest vote went to a runoff. And even with that, the Electoral Commission had to go to time a constituency that elections were not done there to be able to even declare winner within even this close proximity. This shows that the outcome of this particular process shows that the procedures are, are guided by rules, and it's not by emotions or by any whims or caprice of anybody. That talks about institutional rule. And then citizens participation. And all these elections, as in, for example, having in 2024, where the EC declared John Dramani Mahama the winner of the elections, and then Mahmoud Bami also considered this was another elections that citizens took part and they accepted. And this actually brought actually underscored the legitimacy of the sitting president, John Dramani Mahama, because of citizens partaking in this particular process. So that's what we mean by it's guided by rules and procedures. And so this is what an election is and the other stuff. So at this level, this is what we are talking about. And then we move to elections steps where you see a diagram over here. There's registration in the election. We have campaigning. There is voting. There is counting. There is results. So this goes beyond. This is not the only steps that are in election, because there is a before, during, and after. So, but these are some of the steps that are underlined in elections. Then we ask ourselves, why do we have elections? Why at all do we have elections? So, peaceful way to decide who governs, because there are a lot of people in the society who may want to offer themselves for political leadership. It will not be it will not be left to the survival of the fittest or who is stronger to decide. No, but electoral system in place where people take part and these people offer themselves for elections, and the people decide the best person to represent their interest within a point in time. So you realize that in the 2024 elections, Ghanaians saw the likes of Dr. Mahmoud Bamia, John Dramani Mahama, Chada. They saw the likes of Alan Kojuche Mantin, Kofi Kojo Apalu. These are a lot of individuals who were also found on the ballot. 13 individuals, amazing, who were all found on the ballot, seeking to represent the Ghanaian interest, and the people had to decide. This is a peaceful way of governance, where people just do this, and then at the end of the day, the people accept the results because they took part in the process and they actually accepted how maybe peaceful and then how fair it was. A second point over here is offers legitimacy to government. It offers legitimacy to government. You see, when people take or citizens take part in this particular process, they've appended their signature to the fact that whoever is the winner of this particular election, they all accept and abide by those policies that will be done by those governments. So, for example, in 2024, Ghanaians went to the polls, and then John Dramani Mahama was declared the victor by the Electoral Commission. What happened was that on 7th January, when he was sworn in, either you're an NDC person, you are CPP, you are from PNC, you are from Chada, wherever you are from, whatever your political affiliation is, because we took part in all this electoral process, we actually give legitimacy to the presidency, and we abide by it because we know that we all took part. Maybe your candidate didn't win, but you're taking part alone is also legitimizing the particular process, and also underscoring that its credibility. So it offers legitimacy to the government. And then another part of it has to do with enable citizens to shape the future, because election gives citizens the opportunity to have a say in how the country is run. So by voting, people influence decision about policies, law, national policy, and the rest. So for the same in 2016, the then candidate on the ticket of the New Patriotic Party, the NPP, Nana Akufo-Addo, was actually propagating. He will engage in have free education, one district, one factory, and all this other stuff. The same way, then John Dramani Mahama was saying free progressive education. He was building e-blocks and all these things, engaging in infrastructure. At the end of the day, Ghanaian people sat down and said no. They actually ascribed the policies and the visions of Nana Akufo-Addo, who was then a candidate, and they voted for him. So we say it enables citizens to shape their future. So they chose that particular future. And in 2024, when Dr. Mahmoud Bamia was campaigning on digitization and having to use a digital means to improve things and change things, the same way President Romani Mahama also talking about the economy. He was speaking about the fact that having to have a 24 hours economy, which could also deal with what? Unemployment. So all these were the things these different individuals were talking about. And the Ghanaian people bought into it in 2024 and voted for what? John Dramani Mahama then. So that is about enables citizens to shape the future. So hold leaders what accountable. Elections hold leaders accountable. When citizens feel that maybe the leaders who came in failed them or did not actually deliver upon the mandates in which they were voted upon, they also reserve the right to make sure those leaders are actually what removed from power or ousted from power by true legitimate means, which is through what a voting cycle again. So you realize that members of parliament are voted out when citizens feel that what they don't perform. The same way presidential candidate incumbency in governments that are incumbent also lose elections because the people feel like no, you have failed us. You promised us A, B, C, then you've not done it. When people also feel that the president has also delivered on its mandate, they go to the polls and they endorse again and give him another what mandate as the constitution allows. So you see citizens voting peacefully. This shows how peaceful the process is. Citizens find themselves at various polling stations casting their vote. You see electoral officers also what counting these votes in a peaceful manner, and you see people standing around what the polling station having to what observe the counting process and all this. These are all part of what the peaceful way citizens engage in what in elections. So the types of elections in Ghana, looking at the scope, there's a national election and local election. We're going to talk about all this one after the other. There's the timing, which has to do with regular and by-elections, which is the regular elections in Ghana every 4 years cycle. There's also what a by-election has to in between a regular election. We'll talk about all these things in assessment what slides. And so there's also what nature, the nature of it, which has to do with parliamentary or versus presidential. There's a mode which is what partisan or non-partisan. The purpose of election, which is elections, elections versus referendum versus what plebiscite. We'll all delve into this one after the other. So parliamentary versus presidential elections. So parliamentary elections what choosing members of parliament for different constituencies. So electing MPs by constituency with a simple what majority. That is what first past the post, the FPTP. So Ghana used first past the post for what its parliamentary what system, where each constituency vote for what one candidate. So the candidate with the most vote wins, even if it is not what an absolute what majority. That is how it is operated. And also in the parliamentary system, you've Ghana has conducted a lot of parliamentary elections where you have different people winning at different what levels. So in 2024, Ghana also engaged in that, and there was a lot of parliamentary elections where you had Ningo Prampram, where you have the likes of some Honorable Sam George having to win that particular what seat also. So these are all examples of all these parliamentary candidates that also what won what elections at different constituencies. In terms of the presidential election, this is where we select president and the vice president. So we elect president is 50+1. That's what we call it. So when it comes to presidential election, Ghana used a majoritarian 2-round system for presidential election. That's if should in case the person does not get a 50%. So to win or for a candidate to be a president of this country or a president of Ghana, he must get 50 of all valid votes. 50 of all valid vote, which is what the famous saying that we have 50% plus what plus one. So if no candidate gets this in the first round, a runoff, which is the second round, is held between the two candidates with the highest vote. So in 2020, December 7th, December 2024, Ghana didn't go for a second round because the then president won the election had the 50+1. That's why it didn't go for that. But you realize that in Ghana in 2008, the country went for a runoff because no party was able to what, to win that 50+1. Yeah, and then this is guided by what, the Constitution, where it is stated in what, Article 63 clause 3, Article 63 clause 3 to 4 of the 1992 Constitution, which states that, like, on presidential elections, this particular clause, which is 63, Article 63 clause 3, states that a person cannot be selected as what, president of Ghana, unless they obtain more than 50% of the total valid vote cast in presidential election. And then the clause 4 says that this clause addresses the scenario where no candidate obtained the required 50% or more of the vote when they are more than two candidates, where there are more than two candidates. In such a situation, a second election must be held within 21 days after the initial election. But note this, a runoff rule happens over here, right? A runoff, but in the parliamentary, we're not doing a runoff because it's what, a simple what, majority. So we see that of what, parliamentarians who are assembled. This is the forecourt of what, in the building of what, of the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana, and then this is where the chamber is. There's also seen at the moment the President of the Republic of Ghana on the 7th of January 2025, who was being sworn in by the Chief Justice of it is magnificent. So this is part of what, the electoral process that we are talking about. To the next slide, which has to do with what, regular versus by-election. Regular versus by-election. So when we say a regular election, they are scheduled or periodic election held to fulfill office, fill offices at the end of what, of a fixed term. So in Ghana, presidential and parliamentary elections are held every 4 years on the same day. So the presidential election is a two-round, as I said, 50+1. Parliamentary is what, first past the post, which is a single majority constituency. That's it. So that's for regular election. So regular election is what, nationwide. So all constituency and what, a national presidential what, ballot. A by-election is a special election held to fulfill a vacancy, help to fill a vacancy that arises between regular electoral election period or electoral period, often due to what, death, resignation, or disqualification of what, of an office or holder. So we're seeing this, that a by-election. So with a by-election, what you realize is that the constitution also deals with the by-election. So when you go to Article 112 clause 5, it says that the clerk of parliament will notify the EC within 7 days. 7 days, the by-election within 30 days of the what, vacancy. 60 days if what, it is due to what, deaf. That is it. So some examples of by-elections that have transpired in recent times: the Asin North by-election, which was what held on June 27, 2023, which the seat was recontested after a court ruling on it. Also, this seat was won by Honorable Jache Kwesen of the NDC. Yeah, and also the Kumewu by-election that was held on May 2023, May 23rd, 2023, which was also because of the death of the MP, the MPP MP then, which was NS Yao, the MPP MP then, which was won by NS Yao Enim. He won the seat over there, and then Ejoso also had a by-election. We also had a by-election in April 30th to April 30th to 1st May 2024. This was by Kwabna Boateng, who won this particular seat. So what you should put in mind, as I said, that there's nothing like a presidential by-election. So if a president leaves office, the vice president assumes office for the unexpired term. That is it for the presidential election, or there's something like a presidential by-election. So you see this of a flyer of the Kumewu by-election where there was an independent candidate who also broke up away from the MPP and also had to contest. They also the Asin North by-election. This was the results of from that you saw Honorable Jasi Kwesi who won. This report was from City Newsroom. Credit to City Newsroom. And then the national versus local election. So most of our national election, we are electing national elections, election for officers that serve the entire country, such as the president or the members of parliament. So a national election elect the president or vice president. So that's one ticket. And the members of parliament also MPs for per constituency, and it's held every 4 years, and it's mostly on the same day, which is on the same day, which is December 7th, and that's when it is held. Local elections. Elections for officers at the district or municipal level, such as district assembly members or unit committee members. So in 2019, we had a district assembly and unit committee election. Likewise, the same to 2023, we also had the same district level election that was held on December 19, 2023. Yeah. So what do you put? That is it for the, and then you realize that when it comes to the time frame, as I said, for the national one is every 4 years, and then the local level too is every 4 years. But it must be at least 6 months apart from the parliamentary elections. Yeah. And then the next one to this next slide is where we see a flyer, which is an announcement of all the district assembly election to create awareness by the National Communication of Civil Education for people to aware to take part in this particular process. Also, you see another flyer that also shows the two candidates for the 2024 election, which is Honorable Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and also the current president of the Republic of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama. And then some of the candidates also that's Chada in the middle and all. Yeah. Also, partisan versus non-partisan election. So partisan election, so candidates represent political parties and the party symbol appear on the ballot. That's a partisan election. So where voters will select their preferred party or candidate, and then the party symbol will appear alongside the name on the ballot. That's how it is for a partisan election. So in Ghana, for example, the presidential and the parliamentary election are partisan. You find major parties such as the MPP, which is the NDC, they all throw candidates in their to contest and on the ticket of the party. So also the non-partisan election is candidates run as individuals not representing any political party. That's for the non-partisan election. So with this particular election, the focus is on the candidates. So it's on the candidate's personal merit, his plans, and the community reputation. That's what this one is. So realize that district assembly elections and unit committee elections are non-partisan in Ghana. So candidates don't go out campaigning or identifying themselves with any political party. That is what it is. So you see that the flyer or the picture on the flyer on the first part of on our right, on my left, you see that Ghana's poll for December 2024 is all these were the candidates who contested the elections. So you see that of it over here, right? The same way you also see that also over here, which is you see another picture over here that shows you an example of a ballot issue to what citizens who cast the vote. You realize that the individuals are there, but there is no what party identification. That is non-partisan and symbol of the CPP, GCPP, which is a bird, the C, the Equador party, which was what a cocoa tree. You see that of Goom, and even all these parties had a symbol. The NDC, which is what an umbrella. Yeah. Also, so is now we're going to delve into now elections. We're talking about elections. So talking about more of the focus will be more on referendum and versus what plebiscite. So referendum versus plebiscite. So elections, we're talking about it a lot. We choose leaders, can be national or local. An example, the 2024 election, referendum over there, the plebiscite also. So let's delve into them one after the so delving into the one after the other, I'm not going to waste a lot of time on elections because you know that elections is when citizens select what people to choose to hold public office for them. So we know that already. So we're not going to go into it too much. I've given examples of elections that have been held in Ghana. What we'll be going to or will be touching on mostly is the word referendum. Citizens vote on a specific what policy or constitutional question, usually what nationwide. So citizens vote or they choose yes or no on a specific policy or a constitutional question. So Ghana's constitution is the first one that we can use as an example. The 1990 constitution is the first one we can use, and we put this in mind. The constitution also sets a parameter for referendum. So it sets in terms of turnout and an approval threshold for certain topics. So it's not like every. So we'll delve into that also. I'll just mention that also on that. So what the constitution also says is that if we are amending an entrenched constitutional provision, we are amending an entrenched constitutional provision. For example, you see, if we say we want a president to go for a third term, that is an entrenched constitutional provision. It means that it will need the people of the Republic of Ghana to vote on it to approve that if they want a president to go for a third term because there was an entrenched constitutional provision. That's an example of it. So it requires a national referendum. So it is with this. These are the parameters. It's a national referendum with 40% turnout. The voter turnout for the election should be 40%, and you should be able to win 55% yes approval rate. Sorry, 75%, 75%. So if you're not able to attain 75% of the total voter turnout, which is 40%, it means that the referendum has been rejected. If you're able to gain 75% of a yes vote, it means that the referendum has been approved. It will go to parliament and it will be approved, but the people have already accepted it. That is how it works in terms of the rules around a referendum. Also, another part of the constitution, which is at 5, also Article 5 also says that if it's creating or altering a region also requires a referendum. So that in a particular affected area, you are supposed to have a 50% turnout and 80% yes. So for us to accept the creation or altering of a region, there has to be a voter turnout of 50%, and then the answer or the vote, those who are in support of it, should be 80%. And this was applied in Ghana on December 27th, 2018, to create 6 new regions. This is what we used to create the additional 6 new regions in Ghana. So after the vote of that particular referendum, I realized that the EC confirmed that all the 6 regions met the constitutional threshold, which I just mentioned. An historical example, as I mentioned earlier, is the 1992 Constitution, right? Which received an approval rate which was widely approved by 92%, which was the yes vote for that particular referendum on the constitution. So looking at plebiscite. So a plebiscite is a vote by the people of a specific area on a question concerning their territory or future. So over here, I think a classic case of Ghana. Just to give you an example, a classic example of this is the UN supervised 1956 British Togoland plebiscite. So in 1956, British Togoland plebiscite, which was the UN was supervised by the UN. The voter choice, or what the voters were choosing, was union with the Gold Coast ahead of independence. Won. That was they won by 58%. Yes. So I just want to show you or give that nostalgic feeling. So this the first image you see just reporting the results for the 2024 election results that you could see over here. The one in the middle is the referendum that happened in Ghana. And then this referendum happened on April 28th, 1992. That's when Ghanaians adopted a new constitution. And that constitution is what has ushered us into the fourth republic till date. And then it was overwhelmingly approved by a 92.56% were in favor of this particular constitution. And then the one you see on your far end, which to your right, has to do with the Togoland plebiscite, where you see the voter choice 1, 2. That's how it looked like in terms of the voting on that. So we are moving to what we call free and fair election. Every election has, these are one key factors of election. So free and fair election. So when you say election is free, it has to be free. There's civil liberty. There has to be choice. There has to be access. So when we say citizens must enjoy civil liberty, we are talking about having freedom of speech, assembling, association. The citizens should be able to assemble themselves, to campaign, do their own stuff, associate themselves with that they want to be part of the NPP, the NDC, the CPP, without any intimidation from any other political party. They should also have the freedom to also speak. When I say freedom of speech, it means that speaking responsibly, because you don't have to, you speak responsibly. Yeah, that's the freedom of speech. And also, when we talk about another one, has to voter choice. We talk about choice. Citizens should have the ability to be able to choose their candidates. In terms of this, the candidates there should be a lot of candidates that are actually better for them to choose from. Not that citizens go to the polls and then they may see only one candidate available, or maybe one and then the other one may not even be a viable candidate. No, there should be. So voters should have that real choice among candidates and parties. So for example, you realize that over the period, some people used to make the claim that Russia is operating with a facade electoral system, where they are saying that before the electoral cycle will happen, you have certain individuals who are the main contenders, maybe have been banned or maybe arrested or may have issues. Some people talk about this in other elections cut across around the world, where some people complain of the fact that major competitors are always either jailed or are not in the country, and all this does not all these are not part of having to have a free election. So access to vote. All eligible voters can register and vote without obstacles. Hope you're getting me. So we should make it as easy and flexible as possible for voters to be able to register. So if it's about having voter registration or having a new voters card, every constituency, every polling station should be able to have that access, so that wherever the person is, the person can also walk to that small polling station, that's his voter card, and be able to eligible for the next voting cycle. So we should not necessarily bring laws or things that will impede citizens being able to have access to the voting center and all these things. Also, no fear or intimidation is very important. There shouldn't be fear or intimidation or coercion of voters. Yeah. So whereas Ghana, we've done a lot of elections. The Electoral Commission of Ghana has been able to bring about elections. There may be other issues, but that's an example. So what does the fair mean? When we say fair, what does it mean? Equal vote value, impartiality, and transparency. So when you say equal vote value, you're saying every person's vote count. It counts the same. So one vote does not become 3 or 5. It should be one. One person, one vote, ensuring that fairness. One person, one vote. And then the impartiality has to do, the election organizers and the process are neutral and not does not favor any political party. The transparency has to do with what every step of voter registration, voting, counting vote, announcing them should be open and clear. So in Ghana, you realize that when it's 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock and voting is closed, people can move to the polling station to observe, to see the counting and all those things. It's part of the to ensure the transparency what process, and in the fact that you have to paste the pin sheet at the polling station so that people can actually take pictures and even know what the final what outcome of that vote at that particular what polling station. I want you to explain that this is done. This has to be ensured that to make sure that so this all is done the free and fair to make sure that citizens actually being able to what elect the best people so their vote is going to what not going to be undermined in any way. So some of the things that can also help with this has to do with uh, elections using what transparent procedures. So you have a biometric registration to identify which helps so that one person does not end up voting twice and all those things. So their electoral boundaries are clear and defined to prevent manipulation. It's very important, which is gerrymandering. When I say gerrymandering, it's the practice of what? Manipulating the borders of electoral districts to benefit one party or group or what? Or class. Next one has to do with competitive what? Election. When we say competitive what? A meaningful alternative, fair opportunities for all. So voters can choose between different parties, candidates, or what? Policies. That's what it should be. So as I said earlier, they should have the option to be able to choose different candidates. The citizens should be able to trust the
Battery
process.
low.
When voters believe that the elections are open and fair, they have more confidence in what the results and the system. Yeah. Also, we're going to just look at this session, which we're just going to look at some feeling questions and how maybe you can answer them or how these feelings questions may go. For example, the first question we're going to take is write one definition of election provided in what the introduction or of elections politics in Ghana. So you can decide to write or answer in this way. Elections are a formal process by which a population chooses an individual to hold public office or select those who govern them. The other electoral definitions I gave earlier in our slides, you can also have that in mind. You can write them down. So for filling questions like this, it should be precise and concise so that whoever also has to deal with your script and all those things are able to manage and get it right for you. So well, this is not an essay. We'll talk about some essay-like questions also later. So a second question is identify two key features of elections according to what we've done right now. Lecture notes. We'll say like um, election, what happens according to established rules and procedures. Elections provide a genuine choice for voters among different what options, right? And then question number 3 we will look at is so name one difference between an election and a referendum and describe as in what we've done in our lesson has to what an election is to what select individuals for what public office whilst a referendum is to what determine voter preference on a specific what issue. And our fourth question has to do with what is the main distinguishing factors between a referendum and a plebiscite. So a referendum is what is national in scope and involves all voters, right? Whilst a plebiscite is limited to people in a specific part of what of the country voting on what on territory. While a referendum also is about having to it involves national in scope or voting on issues either yes or what or no. Then another question also is how does a parliamentary election differ from a presidential election in Ghana? And I'm sure you'll be able to this one. I'm not going to explain it. You'll be able to what do this by going to our lecture notes and then catching up with what the difference over. Also, there's another question is what is the difference between a regular election and a by-election? You should be able to do this. Make sure you go over the notes and you're able to make sure you answer some of all these questions. The distinction between partisan and non-partisan elections in Ghana. This should also be able to be easy. I tried to answer some of the earlier questions because I wanted you to have a feeling of how somehow you can formulate a feeling question, you can answer them and be precise and concise about them. And then the question number 8, list two functions or rules of election in a democratic
Battery
society.
low.
And then 9, 10, over here, what is meant by the term competitive election. And then another filling set of questions, name 2 types of what elections discussed in our lecture slides or our lecture that we've just done. Cite one of the reasons why elections are important for what political stability. And all these are some filling questions that you can actually try your hands on. And also this, the last question is over here. So thank you very much. And as I said, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe so that when we post the current videos, you receive a notification and that you don't miss any video. And then also you can put your comments there, and you also have any other topic you want us to tackle or deal with, you can drop it in the comment section. We'll work on that. Thank you very much.